Hello and welcome. Welcome to my acreage. I live in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and we live on a section of land, or a parcel of land of 80 acres, which was the smallest that we could get at that time. We chose, because we're not farmers, we chose to take sand dunes, land that was not really viable for agriculture. So we have kept it natural. This is just our backyard. I'm shooting off the back deck. The sun is out. The cats are out. You might see them in the background. And these blossoms here that you can see, I hope you can see at least, are chokecherry blossoms. So these all grow naturally. We don't... because it's sand, and at one time when we moved out here, there was a drought and there wasn't any water for irrigation or for watering plants. And I see the ravens are talking in the background there too. We didn't bother planting anything. We just let it go natural. And the deer, friends of ours did plant a garden for us, but the deer came along and ate it. So we grow chokecherries, trembling aspens or poplars, a number of natural other prairie grasses, and lots of wildlife, as you can see. So I mention that because I want to tell you about making an informed career choice. And in order to do that, you need to know your values and to know what kind of environment you're going to thrive in. So my name is Gwen Chappell, and I am a career counselor and executive coach, and I am creating a program about increasing career confidence. And you may know from previous sections or previous Facebook Lives that I've been doing a survey, and in that survey I found that the responses fell into about 4 different categories of areas of challenge when people ran into difficulties in their career. And one of them, and these responses fell into 4 categories, which I categorized as the initial career choice, finding the right career, finding the right environment initially, and then that is actually an ongoing challenge. So at the beginning of your career, or whenever you're re-entering the career force or transitioning from one level to another, you tend to go back to these same issues. There are other 3 categories. One, the next one that is I call navigating, which is dealing with promotions, developing the skills, the competence, establishing yourself, and then another section of challenge was around the social challenges, the power and the politics, and all those undercurrents that sometimes get in the way of doing your job. And a little breezy here. It's not bad for Saskatchewan, but we always have a lot of breezes, and this house is at the top of a hill, so it gets even more breezes. I used to call it the sand castle, but my husband didn't like that for some reason. Anyway, the last category is what I was calling the emotional component of confidence, and that which I would say it's more belief in yourself, self-efficacy. So I'm not going to talk, I don't have time to talk about all of those things today, but I did want to talk about the first one, career choice, and how it relates to this acreage. So when you are considering your career choice, you want to begin with looking at 3 things: your personality, your interests, and your values. So personality, there are lots of different ways of thinking about personality, working with personality. The Myers-Briggs type indicator is one of the ones that's been very popular for a lot of years. And it's very helpful in helping people understand that there are different kinds of personalities, and different kinds of personalities will thrive in different kinds of environments. And different kinds of personalities have different communication styles, different preferences for working, different ways of getting things done, different ways of processing information. So that's the Myers-Briggs type indicator, and there's lots of resources on the internet And I'm going to pull together a little resource sheet for you which gives you this information, so don't worry if you're scrambling to try to take notes. Another way of looking at personality is the Big Five. Let's see if I can remember them. These are traits, not types, so it's a different way, totally different way of looking at the MBTI, which sorts people into types. You're either this or this. And it's like the Myers-Briggs. I believe most of the assessments for the Big Five are self-scored. They are openness. Let me see if I can think of them. Conscientiousness, extroversion or introversion, but extroversion is the scale that they use. Agreeableness, and what they used to call neuroticism, and then they decided that that was kind of a negative term. And I'm sorry, I can't recall at the moment what term they used to replace that. But it's that neuroticism it's a way of, if I recall correctly, it's a way of measuring how much anxiety somebody has in the world. So that's another way of looking and thinking about personality types. There's a number of other things. There's a people map, which is a kind of a really accessible kind of way of looking at personality, very useful for social engagements and work situations. The DISC, the Enneagram, there's all kinds of things. As I said, I'll pull together a little resource for you, and you can look and see which ones of those would be useful. So that's personality. And if you were to look at this, which as I see is reverse here, but if you were to look at the three things that you need to consider, if I get my pen open here. If we look at personality and interests and values, let's see if you can see that. So you've got personality, which we just talked about, interests and values. And those three things that are sort of the beginning place of that you need, the very minimum that you need to look at when considering career choice. Interests, there's a number of ways of assessing interests. I mean, basically, it's what you're interested in. Now, that can be totally overwhelming when you have 1,000, well, actually, it's many thousands of jobs and occupations to sort through. So one of the most useful tools when you're just starting out and getting a sense of where do you fit in this overall gigantic world of occupations, and there are many more occupations than you realize, is something called the Strong Interest Inventory. Now, there are other kinds of interest inventories. There's the Occupational Profiler, and the idea of these kinds of interest inventories is that they sort your interests into categories, and we live not that close to the airport, but occasionally we get an overhead plane that flies overhead and makes a bunch of noise. And of course it would do it while I'm doing a Facebook Live. So the advantage of assessments like the Strong Interest Inventory or the Occupational Profiler is that they will connect to research that's done by the government, and if you do an online inventory, it will connect right to the government's websites. There's two different, I live in Canada, so we have the National Occupation Code. In the United States, they have their version, and because, of course, United States is about 10 times the population, they have a lot more resources and a bigger data file. But both of these are useful tools to help you explore occupations that you had never thought of, that you didn't know existed, that you would never in your lifetime have thought that anybody could make a living doing. It is an amazing world. So those kinds of assessments can be very, very helpful. So that is, we turn down here again, that's interests. The last thing that we want to look at here is values. Now, values is kind of an interesting thing because values, we talk about work values, we talk about personal values. It's really about, sorry, Facebook is telling me to put on a mask to give myself a fun look and try the magic wand to try one on. We'll try that maybe a little bit later. But I am far too easily distracted by these kinds of things. Anyway, values, when we're talking in a work context, we're really talking about what kind of values. Well, let's see. There's several different ways of looking at it. There's the values that the employer wants for their employees. So, of course, they want their employers to have a good work ethic, that they'll show up on time. From an individual point of view, personally, I was about to say that I think that people need to find meaning, and then I was going to say, wait a second, that is not every personality is like that, and that's why you start with personality, because some people are completely happy to work at a job which is, maybe doesn't match their highest ambitions, but it gets the job done, literally and figuratively. It provides the income that they need so that they can go on and find meaning and purpose outside of their work. And they are quite contented. They go to their job, they do their job. It doesn't drain them of energy to do that kind of work. There are other kind of personalities that can't, let's see, I was going to say can't compromise in that way, but I don't really see it as a compromise because for some people, that kind of work is wonderful. It meets their needs perfectly. But there are other people who find that they need to have a lot of meaning in their work. And if they don't have that meaning in their work, they kind of wonder what's it all about. So that's why you start with personality, because you want to figure out what kind of person you are and what is going to be important for you and your personality. What's going to bring you meaning and purpose and joy and fun and all those things that give you those meaningful experiences that make life worth living and allow you to create the connections you need so that you get the loving relationships you need so that you can thrive in your life and do what it is that you're meant to do on this earth. So, hi Brett. I can see that you have joined. I'm very excited to see you here. So, I think I've given you a sense of some of the challenges and maybe the beginnings of the solutions. I do want to add, I want to make sure that you understand that, I just have to show you who's been distracting me down here. It's one of my outdoor cats. She likes to come and say hello. I just wanted to say that this is just the beginning because we're looking at the self right now, but we as individuals are enmeshed and embodied. So there's other aspects that we need to consider. So we, first of all, embodied in a physical body, so we need to take good care of our body if we're going to be able to explore our interests and to develop our interests. So the physical well-being is an important component of being able to carry through with your life and live the life that you want to live. And enmeshed, I realized I said enmeshed and didn't continue. Enmeshed, immersed, living with other human beings. So when we start thinking about ourselves, we also need to think about ourselves in relationship with others. So once we get clear on who we are, or get as clear as we can be in solitude about who we are and what we want and what interests us, then we go out into the world and we start exploring the world to see if it is true that this particular thing that we think interests us really is what we think it is, and that it really is going to give us the satisfaction that we want. And also, the other part of it is that the way that we contribute to the world is through connection with others. So it's a balance between knowing what we want and who we are and taking time to think about that and nurture that and get attuned with listening to that little voice that says, I don't want to do that, and honoring that and nurturing that part. And at the same time, turning to the outside world and saying, well, what is out there? Who is out there? What are their needs? And how can we meet those needs? Because meeting the needs of others is how we get our own needs met. So it is an exchange of value, of energy, and that's how we convince employers to hire us or customers to buy from us. So there's a whole set of communication skills and social skills, and it goes back to emotional intelligence that I was talking about earlier. The social skills as well as the self-awareness and self-skills. So if you, thank you for joining me. If you thought this was interesting and valuable, or you just like to look at the acreage, which is not a bad thing to do, please share. And if you like it, please give me the thumbs up or give me a little heart, and I'd be very excited by that. So share this if you would. I am creating a career confidence community where I hope that we can discuss the things that challenge us and come up with resources for some of those really tricky social situations where there might be undercurrents. That will probably be a private group, a free group to join, but private. And then, of course, we'll have to consider confidentiality and those kinds of things, because you don't want to be publicizing challenges you're having at work when your employers or coworkers might be on the same Facebook page. So we'll have to consider those kinds of things. But if you found this interesting and you want to pop over to Gwen Chapel-Career Confidence, that's a page that I'm creating for open discussions where we can discuss openly challenges that we've had and resources and solutions or possibilities of finding ways to find solutions in a way that's respectful and appreciative of each other and ourselves. Go over to check that out. That's Gwen Chapel at Career Confidence. Sorry, let me rephrase that. It's Gwen Chapel-Career Confidence. It's a Facebook page. And on that Facebook page, you will find a link for a free career confidence strategy session with me. And I'm doing that for the month of May 2017, in case you happen to come by years from now and look at that. So this is May 2017. Until the end of May, I have some openings for some career confidence strategy sessions. And you are welcome to pop on there and tell me about your challenges, and that will help me with my research and my understanding and help me develop the program on career confidence basics. So until next time, all the best. Bye for now. Here we are. Found the finish button.